The World and I, Session 9. I talked about religion, whether we need a religion or not, in the previous session. What I want to talk about as an extension of that is the notion of, can religion solve the world problem? And if not, what's the alternative? I think there'll be a lot of people who would attribute great accomplishments in the history of humans to religions. And I probably can attest to the validity of some of that conclusion. I can also hear a lot of people who would attest to the fact that religion has been the greatest source of wars and troubles and devastations and barbaric acts ever committed in the history of humankind. And I can agree and attest to that as well. And I know there are people who would say, without religion, how are we going to solve the world problems? We need religion, a religion that's going to unify the world. And in fact, there's one religion that specifically says that is, well, there's more than one religion, that specifically says if everybody was our religion, then the problems of the world will disappear. Forgive me, but that is absolute rubbish. The problems of the world will not be resolved by everybody accepting your point of view. The problems of the world will be resolved by accepting the two principles that I've been highlighting all along. I emphasize, you will not solve the world's problem by convincing the world, the 7 billion plus people in the world, that your religion is the right religion, and if you could only convert to their religion, whatever it is, then there will be a new tomorrow. I think that's quite idealistic, and in fact I don't think it's even right. No matter what you say, no matter what religion it is, every religion is a product or byproduct of a lot of generations upon generations of people that practiced it in the past, that did something, that added or subtracted, and even in certain cases they fabricated things in these religions to suit their purposes, to such an extent that most of the time religions I find a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of problems of really accepting at face value that everything in that particular religion is true and nothing but the truth. Which, and speaking about the truth, that's another topic that I will discuss another time. What is the truth? Famous question. But anybody who keeps telling you that their religion, if everybody would adopt their religion, the world would not be a problem, is nonsense. I mind you, if the two principles I've been citing were the basis of a religion, and if they are the only two bases, and nobody else brings more complications to it than these, I have no problem with that being the basis of solving the world's problem, because I think they are simple enough and powerful enough that they can make the ability to relate all world's legislations and laws and human rights, what have you, so simple when you relate them to these two simple principles. I'm not advocating them. I didn't come with them. I think even these two principles have always been around us, probably from time immemorial. But I am saying these two principles really summarize what every religion should be. So if you could converge all the religions of the world into these two principles, then sure, every one of those religions can attest to these two, and then these two principles can be a good basis to resolve the world problem. But of course, it's easier said than done, and these two principles are very, very difficult to accomplish for a variety of reasons. in the first place, for the first principle, more and more people are going in the opposite direction of creating a relationship. In fact, they've been simply cutting it because they don't believe there's anybody out there. And equally, our whole society, as we exceeded the 7 billion people on the face of this planet, the entire society has been uh, moving further and further in the direction of materialism, to such an extent that, and I'm going to cover that in future sessions, we've been into so much materialism that the principle of letting others do unto you as you would want them to do unto you, or you do, that principle is becoming weaker and weaker in adaptation and implementation, uh, because it implies higher values, and the values that we see prevalent nowadays are values of selfishness and possessiveness and having and rejecting. And so it's very, very difficult for that second principle also to take hold. So it is idealistic, but short of these two principles, I really don't have any answer. And I realize that this answer in itself is a very difficult one at the same time. So with that, I will leave this ninth session with the notion that religion is not a basis to resolve the world's problem. These two principles are, if only they weren't so idealistic. Thank you, and see you in session 10.